Paint peeling off them old brick signs. Folks work hard, keep their heads down, trying to hold on to better times. Used to leave your door unlocked at night. Now everybody's got a camera on. Still got faith if we get it right, we can fix what's gone wrong. Ain't about talk, ain't about show. It's about the way we live, the way we know. Let's get back to dirt roads, back to porch lights. Neighbors standing up when it ain't polite. Cold beer, hot true stars up above. A little less noise and a whole lot of love. Red, white, blue ain't a trend we chase. It's sweat on your shirt and calloused hands grace. If we're gonna stand, we don't stand apart. We gotta get back to heart. By the water line, kids still laughing like nothing's changed. But there's a whole lot of talk on the screen these days, and not enough folks saying it face to face. We ain't perfect, never claimed to be, but we know what matters when the dust all clears. It's family, friends, and a little dignity, and standing strong through the years. Ain't about left, ain't about right. It's about showing up when it's time to fight. Let's get back to dirt roads, back to porch lights. Neighbors standing up when it ain't polite. Cold beer, heart true stars up above. A little less noise and a whole lot of love. Red, white, blue ain't a trend we chase. It's sweat on your shirt and calloused hands grace. If we're gonna stand, we don't stand apart. We gotta get back to heart. Ain't no filter, ain't no spin. Just who we are and where we've been. If you fall down, we pull you up. That's the kind of country built on us. Let's get back to dirt roads, back porch lights. Neighbors standing up, yeah, ready to fight. Cold beer, heart true stars up above. A little less talk and a whole lot of love. Red, white, blue ain't a flag you fold. It's a way of life and a code we hold. If we're gonna stand, we don't stand apart. We gotta get back.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome into Apex News Above the Noise. I am Kyle Thompson.
And I'm Craig Blanton.
Tonight we have a packed show, Craig, as we break down the stories driving headlines and conversations across America today. We'll look at a stunning Department of Justice move against one of the most recognizable names in Cuban history, major political developments, and the stories that could have lasting consequences both here and at home and around the world, obviously. But we begin tonight with a story that few people saw coming. Nearly 30 years after 4 men were killed in a deadly international incident, the United States government said it is now seeking accountability, and the target is one of the most powerful figures Cuba has ever produced. And let's get right into it. In a dramatic announcement today, Craig, the Department of Justice unsealed charges against former Cuban President Raul Castro connected to the 1996 downing of 2 civilian aircraft operated by the humanitarian organization Brothers to the Rescue. The charges reportedly include conspiracy to kill U.S. nationals, murder counts, and destruction of aircraft. For anyone who doesn't remember the original incident, Raul Castro, let's rewind the clock a little bit. Back in February of 1996, 2 small planes flown by Brothers to the Rescue were shot down by Cuban military aircraft, killing 4 people aboard. The group had been conducting missions involving Cuban refugees fleeing the island. At the time, Raul Castro was serving as Cuba's defense minister for decades. Cuba argued the aircraft violated Cuban airspace, but international investigations later concluded the aircraft were actually brought down over international waters. Now, here's where things get a little more interesting. This isn't some random low-level official being charged. This is Raul Castro, the brother of
Yeah.
Fidel Castro. He's the former president of Cuba, one of the most recognizable communist leaders in modern history. And this appears to represent a significant escalation in the Trump administration's pressure campaign against Cuba. Some analysts are even comparing aspects of this strategy to previous pressure campaigns directed toward Venezuela. There are obvious questions here. Is this primarily justice for victims? Is it symbolic? Or is this the opening move in a larger foreign policy strategy? Because let's be honest, Raul Castro is 94 years old and he remains in Cuba. Most observers believe the likelihood of him ever appearing in the U.S. courtroom is extremely small. But even if he never steps foot in court, the political message being sent today is very clear. The United States says time does not erase accountability. So, Craig, my question to you is, does this feel like a straightforward pursuit of justice for 4 Americans killed nearly 3 decades ago? Or does this signal a much broader shift in U.S. policy toward Cuba?
Well, we know it's been said that after Iran is Cuba. You know, you've heard the phrase "Cuba's next,"
Right.
and with Castro being, I was going to say 98. I know he's way up there. You not even really leading anything, but if I remember, weren't these two small planes?
They were. They were two very small.
Single engine planes
Correct.
that were shot down by their military jets for no reason. There was some uproar back then, but nothing happened. But I'm going to tell you, since this new attorney general has come into play with the Department of Justice, this guy is not messing around. He's charging all kinds of things, and I think this is the first step in the pack on the camel. While we're going to hopefully end Iran, the Iranian war, now they're moving on to Cuba to get the Russia and China influence out of Cuba, while Cuba's 90 miles off our east coast.
It's one of the things that you have seen over the last few weeks is the United States opening up dialogue. I mean, you had the head of the CIA sitting down with Cuban officials at the end of last week, beginning of this week, and what a stark image. I mean, you're talking about just 60 years ago, the CIA attempting through the Bay of Pigs, and then all sorts of other attempts on Fidel Castro, and now this coming out. While that's happening, you also have days and days of blackouts now, rolling blackouts that are occurring. They're in
years.
yeah, they're on a full-fledged energy crisis in Cuba. The people are essentially to the point, I wouldn't say revolt, but they're desperate at this point. I think the Trump administration and those in Washington desperately want to help the folks in Havana and outside in the outside areas in Cuba, but we can't risk something awful happening like what did happen with the Bay of Pigs. So there has to be a level of diplomacy that goes into this, and I don't think you're going to have a situation like you did with Maduro, where they're going to come in the middle of the night to snatch this.
There's no point. He's 94 years old.
Yeah.
You're not gaining nothing.
Yeah, I think what this is doing is it's laying the groundwork for the Trump administration to say we're going to hold the people who were in power accountable, even if they're dead. We're going to work towards erasing the wrongs, and I think there are people who feel that the Castros wronged them, led them down the primrose path of.
There's not a what's it called, a limitation on murder charges. They go, the other things will have a 5-year expiration.
Yeah, there's no statute of limitations here.
So maybe they're trying to right the wrong for the guys that was killed, for their families.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, I guess I question, and of course we're not in the rooms of these Washington power brokers. We don't know why they're deciding to do this right now, but I feel like, and we'll talk about this a little bit later in the show, that I feel like I truly honestly believe we're wrapping up what we were going to achieve in Iran, and I think that we are very close to that ending. There's some saber rattling going on, but I think that Trump doesn't sleep. So in his and with Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, they're in no they're not going to sit back and wait mode. They're going to move on to the next thing, and I think that Cuba is the next thing, and I think that goes to that
And
on road.
Cuba, yeah, this focuses on us taking care of our own hemisphere because China had made inroads into Central America and Cuba and basically trying to surround us. And, they were gonna build ports in Western Canada so they could ship directly to Canada. They were gonna pay for it and for the roads to get to the eastern part of Canada. So China was kinda trying to surround us, but we've taken back the Panama Canal. We're back in good faith with most of the Central American countries. There's a little bit with Mexico, but we're at least working together a little bit now.
Yep.
And Cuba could legitimately, being so close to us, being 90 miles off the Florida coast, could become the 51st state, legit, without even talking. And I don't know why they wouldn't,
Yeah,
because
but
they're still operating in 1950s and 1960s technology.
but then you have to deal with Puerto Rico, who has been a
They keep
territory for
voting no to become a
They
state.
do, they do. It
Same
it
thing
would
with the
make
Dominican Republic.
it would make a huge difference to the economy down there. Um, I'm still interested to see what happens with, uh, the vote in Canada, for secession. I think that
Alberta.
Alberta,
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
coming up too.
yeah, I don't think that'll happen, but, they at least got those signatures in really, really quick, and
Well, and they're the Texas of Canada.
they are.
They have all their energy, and they complain about everything, saying, "All our money gets sent to Ottawa, and then they do stuff with it that we don't agree
That we
with."
don't agree with, right? And
Yeah.
they're very conservative. It would very likely be a conservative area, or they could simply be independent. I don't know that
Yeah.
they would wanna do that, but they could.
Well, that's what they're leaning towards. I'm in several Alberta groups just for the heck of it, and I keep saying, "Welcome to the United States." They said,
Yeah,
"We're not coming," and,
yeah,
just to
well,
play along, but with Castro, I don't know who the president of Cuba is. He's obviously not the leader, he's just a figurehead.
yeah.
So I'm not even sure he can get to. I don't remember last time you seen him on TV, but,
Well, Miguel Diaz-Canel is the
is that the
president.
president?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
he took office as president of the Council of States in 2018 and president of the Republic in
Yeah,
October
but
2000.
that's gonna have to be a Cuban citizen-driven thing.
It will, and, they've been held under the thumb of the, military for a long time,
Yep.
so we
Hey,
will
Terry Barnes.
yeah,
But
hey,
yes,
Trip, we will
that's correct, and if they want the I don't know if they have internet blackout or where they can see stuff that goes on in the United States versus what Cuba's lifestyle is right now, but at least Americans can travel to Cuba, so
yeah,
that's helping inject some money, but, we've
some,
blockaded all their oil from Venezuela.
we can travel some, but it's
Yeah,
very
not a lot, not wide open like Bermuda or something,
yeah,
but we blockaded their oil. We let one ship through because of their blackouts and their energy problems. We're sending food in now, which we had cut that off too. So just trying to push the people
yeah.
to make the change.
Well, let's come back, to Kentucky and here in the States, because one of the biggest political stories in America may have happened right here in the Commonwealth, over the last
No
couple of
doubt.
days. Congressman Thomas Massie, the libertarian-minded Republican who represented Kentucky's 4th congressional district for more than a decade, 7, different terms, has been defeated in a stunning primary loss to Trump-backed challenger Ed Gallrein, and the political fallout is already spreading far beyond Kentucky's borders. This wasn't just a close race. This wasn't a late night nail biter like we thought it might be. It was decisive. Gallrein rode strong support from President Trump and built his campaign around a very simple message: loyalty to the America First agenda and support for the president's broader movement. Massey, on the other hand, tried to make this election something different. He framed the race as a test of independence, a test whether Republican voters still wanted members of Congress willing to occasionally stand apart from party leadership and even challenge President Trump. Kentucky voters gave their answer. Now, why does this matter nationally? Because Thomas Massie wasn't some anonymous backbench congressman that you've never heard of. He had become one of the most recognizable independent voices in the Republican conference. He voted against spending bills. He criticized foreign intervention. He often challenged leadership from both parties. And he developed a reputation of being willing to stand alone if he believed a bill violated his principles. Supporters called him consistent, critics called him difficult and an obstructionist, but almost everyone called him independent. Now that independence just ran into a political buzzsaw with enormous influence, and there is another layer here. Political analysts across the country are now asking whether this was really a Kentucky race at all, or whether this became a national referendum on President Trump's continuing influence over the Republican Party. Because if a congressman who had held the seat since 2012 and built strong name recognition could be removed this decisively, every Republican member of Congress is probably taking notes tonight. The question now becomes, and we said this, that they should be taking notes 3 weeks ago when Indiana came out.
Right.
But
Yep.
the question now becomes, was this simply a district deciding it wanted a new representative, or was this a broader message to Washington? I will say this before I throw it to you with that question, Craig, is today I have seen a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth from folks who are Thomas Massie supporters, and good on you. You know, you have every right to do that. The same statements of "I'll never vote for Republicans now," you know, you don't have my vote, or "I won't vote at all." I don't think that's true. I think you're take a beat. You know, that's going to defeat
Right.
the entire purpose. But the hilarious thing that I saw today, and I know you saw this too, is I saw a ton of Democrats who would never have voted for Thomas Massie ever,
In a million years.
but they're getting on social media and they're saying things like, "Oh, so it's not a cult at all. You know, your leader told you to do something, and so you did it, but it's not a cult." When the Democrat Party votes lockstep, every single vote that
100%.
they have is 100%, and if it's not 100%, you will be primaried. And it's
Right.
exactly what they've done for years and years and
Well,
years.
who they talk about primarying right now? Senator Fetterman.
Yeah, I mean, come on. I mean, it's for you to come in here and say, "Oh, well, you're obviously a cult," because the Democrat Party for the last 4 years has voted 100% in
Yep.
lockstep.
You can guarantee in a House vote, you can guarantee 212 to 0 with Democrats being the 212.
The
They
Republicans could
will
sta
100% do it.
the Republicans could stand up and say, I have a resolution that golden retrievers are the best dogs in the entire world. Let's pass a resolution." And Democrats would stand up and object
Right.
to golden
212.
retrievers being good dogs.
212 times, yeah.
212 of them. And listen, I don't want you all to be so blinded by your own agendas that you don't see it in yourself. And it's fine that Democrats are that way. It's just that Republicans are starting to kind of learn how to play the game. They're learning how to play the game with redistricting. They're learning how to play the game when it comes to requiring your folks to vote certain ways and to get
And
with
I
the
want to talk
agendas.
about let me interrupt that just for 1
Yeah,
second.
absolutely.
When you said about people voting in California, the mayor's race, I posted a video that people are flying into Los Angeles just to vote for Spencer Pratt.
Yeah.
And they can do it. Like they even mentioned Kentucky, people from Kentucky and other states flying into LA just to vote for Spencer Pratt because they have no voter ID and they will not ask you for voter ID. So people from all over the country, and that's their words, not mine, all over the country are flying and driving in to Los Angeles to vote for Pratt, even though they live 8 states away, which I thought was hilarious. Using their own rules against them.
Yeah, breaking news coming across right now. Elon Musk-led SpaceX has filed publicly for stock listings amid AI ambitions. That's kind of huge.
Plus, they're getting ready to do an IPO.
Well, they have to do
the biggest IPO in history.
Yeah, that's why they have to do that. My question to you, Craig, is: did Kentucky voters reject Thomas Massie specifically, or are we watching a larger shift where ideological independence inside the Republican Party is becoming harder to maintain, or is it something else that you can have ideological independence, but you have to work harder with others to make sure that your positions make it into the agenda?
Yeah. Well, I'll use Massey's concession speech.
Yeah.
He has taken his campaign from a campaign in Kentucky to use his word, a movement. He said he had all the young people, and then the boomers voted for Galrain. I don't know why that is, but I saw that on CNN too. The
Right.
boomers, which I'm one of, voted Ed Galbraith into office. But in a few years, as these young people today age up and the boomers like me die off, then the things will change for Massey in Northern Kentucky.
Well,
Now
they could,
he's
but
already said that he's going to run again in 2028.
yeah,
So that's him saying it. Now,
yeah.
obviously, we know there's not enough old people to counteract the young people in those 15 or 16 counties that he's got,
Well,
especially in the top 3. They're just come across SpaceX files to go public.
yep.
So I think they're just trying to spin it into good news. He's trying to maybe be a little mini Charlie Kirk, where he started a movement and he was laughing and having a good time. And he said, "Well, I tried to call Ed Galbraith, but I couldn't reach him in Tel Aviv because he says he received all this Jewish campaign donations." So it was a very interesting
His
concession speech.
largest,
And
Thomas Massie's largest donor is a Jewish American.
billionaire,
Yeah. So, I mean, it's on both sides.
right?
There's
And he's a
hypocrisy.
boomer. He's a
Yeah.
boomer billionaire.
But let me also say this. That may be true that as boomers die off or get older and then you have younger people who come in, but the reality you have to understand is as people, get older, this is just
This is a fact.
natural.
It's a
It's a
fact.
fact. You become more conservative. You
Correct.
absolutely do. So, whether that means that you become, more conservative fiscally or whether it is, all politically, you do become more conservative. I believe that Thomas Massie as a firebrand was great for the state of Kentucky until he became an obstructionist on things like President Trump's largest domestic policy agenda, which was on the economy and
Yeah.
the beautiful bill. And he voted against it twice and never worked with anyone to try to work out the details of anything that he wanted to happen. He was just an obstructionist. And listen, we can hear all the platitudes and anything. Democrats, you all wouldn't have voted for this guy at all. The only reason that you were supporting him is the same reason that Republicans are supporting John Fetterman right now in Pennsylvania. It's because he's an obstructionist to your agenda, and he is an independent thinker, whatever you want to think. But the reality is, you'd never vote for Thomas Massie, and you don't want Thomas Massie in there because he's independent of your views as well. He's just obstructionist to the counterpoints that you don't like from the Republican Party. So let's just be real about it and get over this idea that, oh, you're a cult, you're in an echo chamber.
The
You're going to
Republican
always,
Party's far from a cult.
yeah. But on the other side, 212 in the House will always vote in one direction, even
They
if
don't
it's
have a Susan
bad.
Collins
No.
or the senator from Alaska, Murkowski,
Kelsey.
and they certainly don't have a Rand Paul or a Thomas Massie. They've got AOC, but the squad's kind of is down to 1. I think AOC. You don't hear nothing out of them anymore. So
Well, let's talk about a former member of the squad, Ilhan Omar.
there you go.
We're going to move on to a story generating serious political
But
reaction.
can I interrupt before you go on to this?
Sure.
Okay, just got a text from the Kentucky State University baseball coach.
Yep.
They are getting ready to redo the field, and they're wondering if anybody out there in internet land would like to be a quote naming rights for the KSU baseball field.
Okay.
Now, if you're got a company, a bank, or something like that, and you want to be called the Bank of KSU baseball field, then reach out to Rob Henry or reach out to me or Kyle,
Yep.
and we'll put you in touch with him.
We'll absolutely do that. Getting back into the news, let's move to a story generating serious political reaction. Ilhan Omar is breaking her silence after mounting scrutiny over alleged ties to Minnesota's massive Feeding Our Future fraud scandal and broader allegations raised by officials within the Trump administration. Omar issued a direct response today and left very little ambiguity about where she stands. In a statement to Fox News Digital, Omar said, quote, "Any claim that I had knowledge of this scheme is flat out false," end quote. The controversy centers around the massive Feeding Our Future case in Minnesota, one of the largest COVID-era fraud cases in U.S. history, involving approximately $250 million in allegedly fraudulent claims. I think that number is actually low, connected to child nutrition programs. Multiple individuals have already been convicted or charged, in connection with the scheme. Critics have questioned whether Omar's legislative efforts and public advocacy surrounding food assistance programs indirectly helped create an environment with fewer safeguards. Specifically, investigators and critics have pointed to Omar's support for the Meals Act, legislation connected to COVID era emergency flexibilities that expanded food distribution options during the pandemic. A Minnesota oversight report argued some emergency changes effectively, quote, took the guardrails off oversight procedures. But Omar pushed back hard against that narrative. She noted that the legislation was ultimately signed by President Donald Trump and emphasized that it received bipartisan support. Omar stated, quote, the Meals Act was signed into law by President Trump, end quote. It says we lost connection there for a second. Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm here.
She also said stealing millions is reprehensible. Omar further stated that once allegations surfaced, she contacted federal officials seeking accountability and answers. Now sure she did. Now there is another layer developing here. Separate from the feeding our future allegations, Vice President J.D. Vance recently stated the Department of Justice was reviewing allegations involving potential immigration fraud and financial connections involving Omar. However, specific evidence supporting those allegations has not been publicly released, although we have heard all of the tales and stories. And long-standing accusations involving Omar's personal history have repeatedly circulated for years without being proven publicly in court proceedings. So tonight, there are really two competing narratives emerging. Supporters of Omar argue this is another politically motivated attempt to target one of the most visible progressive Democrats in Congress. Critics argue there are legitimate questions that deserve investigations regardless of party affiliation. And that's where this story gets tricky. An allegation is not a conviction, obviously, and an investigation is not a finding. But politically, perception often moves faster than facts. So, Craig, are we watching legitimate oversight and accountability at work? Or are we seeing another example of politics investigations colliding in a way that deepens divisions even further?
Where's AOC and other activists
crickets
supporting what Omar said in the last couple of days? You know, she's been super quiet about this. She went from negative 75,000 or something on her first congressional form, financial documents. Then she went 30 million to the good. Her husband had a wine farm that never sold any wine out in California, but they were worth 30 million. And then she said it was a paperwork mistake, even though she signed it.
It was an accounting. It was a mathematical accounting.
Does that sound familiar to some guy that got 32 felonies in New York?
Yeah.
Or for signing papers that he obviously did not compile himself. But when you're talking billions of dollars, this is just millions. And there's no gnashing of teeth, as you said earlier, on this conspiracy or whatever. But you cannot tell me after now that we've seen the YouTube videos of citizens reporting seeing Somalis take suitcases full of cash through the airport, flying to Somalia and coming back with empty suitcases. And you've also had Minnesota state employees that reported again and again and again to their attorney general, Keith Ellison, that there was fraud in these programs for years.
Yeah.
And they slide by.
There are some very good people that we know from Minnesota, but I wouldn't want to be involved in Minnesota politics right now from either side. It sounds just awful up there.
Well, we took more American tax dollars to Somalia than their entire governmental budget.
But even on top of that, you had the political assassinations of their former Speaker of the House. That is maybe one of the weirdest stories I've ever heard in my life. Claiming that he was ordered to do it by the governor. Obviously, those are allegations of a crazy person. But it said he was sent to go after Amy Klobuchar after that. And
another liberal nut job.
Another. I mean, but at the same time, the House in Minnesota is divided right. I mean, it is a purple state in Minnesota. And you have all of this craziness and all of this fraud going on. I feel terrible for the people of Minnesota who are just good old, Midwestern folks who just want to get by, and they've had all of this come to them in the last 15 years.
And
Thanks.
all pointed out by a 22-year-old journalist, like what we're doing.
Yep.
He was committing journalism and exposing this fraud. He got raked over the coals again and again and again. He got threatened with, got his life threatened.
Yeah.
And look at it now. There's an entire federal government unit, I don't know what you call it, agency
Yeah.
that is headed by the Vice President of the United States that's looking into fraud across the country. And they just held $1.8 billion for the autism care because of all the fraud that's been found so far in California. They held it up for the entire country.
That autism number is crazy. It went from
$1.8 billion held back.
it went something crazy though. Like there was,
Remember
it
we
was
talked
like
about it last week?
it was like $20 million, and then all of a sudden it was like $200 million, and now it's $1 billion
Right. Because
spent on autism because there was no control.
yeah, and when he shut it down in California, they had over 800 autism centers, and only 20 complained to the federal government, "Where's my money?"
Yeah.
The other 780 have not contacted the federal government and saying, "Why did you kick us out of this program?"
Yeah.
That's telling right by
Yeah,
there by itself.
if you're not showing up at you and I would, both be showing up at the
Oh, in a heartbeat. I'd
doorsteps
pick
of
up the phone
places.
in
If
my
you
area
weren't doing something wrong. Yeah, if
Yeah.
you weren't doing something wrong, you would show up. So
Yeah, exactly. Make a phone call at a minimum.
yeah. Well, let's shift overseas because while some of the headlines may suggest things are calming down in Iran, today's developments tell a much more complicated story. The short version is this: major large scale bombing activity appears to have slowed compared to the opening stages of the conflict, but the war itself is far from over. Instead, the conflict appears to be evolving into a struggle over economics, shipping lanes, political pressure, and a long term regional control aspect. Let's break down what is happening right now. First, the Strait of Hormuz remains the center of gravity. Iran continues exercising substantial influence over shipping traffic moving through the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most important maritime choke points on Earth. Roughly one-fifth of the world's oil supply normally moves through that region. And reporting today indicates that Iran and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps have continued using inspections, vessel checks, and transit controls that are slowing global shipping almost to a halt. So what does that matter? Well, because this stopped being only a military story weeks ago, it's now an economic story. So that's where things are changing, and it's an inflation story, especially now with the inflation numbers that we got just a few days ago. And ultimately, it's a story that can hit Americans at the gas pump. There are signs, however, the second aspect of this, there are signs of a political fight emerging inside the United States. The United States Senate just advanced a war powers resolution designed to limit President Trump's authority to continue military operations against Iran without congressional approval, backed by who? Senator John Cornyn out of Texas.
And Bill Cassidy out of
Bill Cassidy,
Louisiana. Bill Cassidy cast the vote that
Yeah.
allowed it to win Senate approval.
Yeah.
Still not got to the House, and it doesn't have enough for a presidential veto override.
Yeah, it's significant because for months efforts like this had
It's
repeatedly
just politics.
Yeah, it's just politics. And again, this is a resolution. Even if you were to call it a binding resolution, there's absolutely nothing that will
It's not going anywhere.
Yeah. The concern from critics is straightforward. What exactly is the long-term objective? To destroy Iran's military capability? Is it to force a negotiated settlement? Is it to protect shipping? Or is it to pursue broader regime pressure? And those questions truly remain unresolved. The third is the market reaction today, which may actually tell us a lot. Markets moved sharply after President Trump stated that the United States may be in the final stages of the conflict. Oil prices dropped substantially for the second straight day, with investors appearing to interpret the comments as a possible sign that future and further escalation could be avoided. But there is a catch. Iran simultaneously issued warnings that any renewed major attacks could expand the conflict beyond the region itself. That is saber rattling at its finest because
They don't want to do that.
they definitely don't want to do that. But they're at this
Not
point,
because of us, because of the other Arab countries.
right. And honestly, I think China at this point, China needs the oil, and they've got to figure out how to get that out as well.
So
So
they get 40% of their oil from Iran alone.
so investors are basically balancing two competing ideas. One, maybe we're moving toward an end game, and the other is one bad decision could reignite everything. The broader analysis tonight is this: the opening phase of this conflict looked like a traditional military confrontation. The current phase increasingly looks like economic pressure and geopolitical positioning. Who controls shipping? Who controls energy? Who controls negotiations? Because right now, as Vice President Vance said a couple weeks ago, we don't even know who we're negotiating
Right.
with, and
And
whether
don't
these
forget
people
the
have any
fiber
power.
optic communication cables
Right,
running through there also.
right. Craig, are we watching the beginning of the end of this conflict, or are we simply moving from a shooting war into a pressure war that could drag on for months?
Well, we're watching a waiting war. Iran, because of what you described earlier, there's dissension in the Congress. There's dissension amongst the American people. Iran leadership sees it. Whoever the leaders are, they see it. All they got to do is wait. Trump keeps threatening to bomb the crap out of them or to take out their leadership, whatever it is. And that is just giving Iran the okay to just kick back and wait. Nothing's going to happen because there's not agreement in the United States or the United States Congress on what to do. It's politics, because you can't tell me that there's people in America that want Iran to have a nuclear bomb, and they've got enough fissile material to make 9 nuclear bombs. We discovered that when they tried to bomb some B-1 bombers in Diego Garcia, 2,500 miles away, we now learned that all of Europe is in the crosshairs of Iran if they get a nuclear missile. So all they're going to do, they've been fighting amongst themselves for 4,000 years, never been peace over there. They will just wait us out because America's ready to move on to the next thing. The country's divided on this, and Trump, if he knows if he goes in and starts bombing them again, then Republicans lose everything everywhere, and that's the end. But
he did say that he was prepared to launch additional airstrikes on Monday night.
Yes, he stopped it an hour before it was going to happen. I don't believe that because, it's really frustrating. We're in another war. We're not trying to win. We were trying to win it in the beginning, but then politics come into play, and we've backed off. Now we just issue idle threat after idle threat. We haven't said no red line or nothing yet. But if we were going to go in and win this, we would do like we did in World War I and II. We'd go in and bomb Cargill, and we would bomb all their energy infrastructure and put them back in the Stone Age, and it wouldn't take us 2 days to do it.
No, it wouldn't. The problem is that you didn't have social media in 1945, and if you did, you would have people.
We'd have lost World War. We'd be speaking German or Japanese right now.
People would be posting, the poor innocent families in Hamburg are being bombed.
Remember the Red Dawn scenario, the movie?
Yeah.
But we would be speaking Japanese on the West Coast and German on the East Coast. All of Europe would be speaking German, and it would be Germany and Russia fighting, and Germany would wipe out Russia. So we don't fight wars to win. Frustrates the crap out of them. We got all this technology. We got $1 trillion military budget every year, and now they're asking for $1.5 trillion, and we're not using it. And
I agree.
Go in and win, and get out and move on to the next thing.
Well, I think the other thing is on quick strike things like going in and getting Maduro, getting them out. We don't give the politicians enough time to mess it all up. To get in there and just do dumb stuff and prevent things from happening.
Yeah, look at ISIS.
But if you turn around and you allow politics to get involved in things that we don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. The people of Iran have been oppressed for almost 50 years. They need to be allowed to be free individuals. All things that everyone would agree to.
Yeah, I mean,
but the reality is that social media and the news media turn everything into a moral crisis.
Yeah. Remember when Iran stoned to death that young lady?
Yeah.
Because her hair
her hijab
come outside of her burqa or whatever you call them things.
Yeah.
Her hair showed, so they killed her.
Yeah.
I mean,
it happens all the time over there. And
right? Yeah, and
it's
I
absolutely
don't understand why people were in a war. What if America truly said, "Screw the world. We're going to do everything in our country. We're going to let the world burn." Then all the bad actors, all the Boko Haram in Africa and all that stuff that are killing all the Christians over there, they'd go crazy. Europe would be taken over probably in 10 years by Muslims, and
5.
probably 5. Yeah, it probably so, because France is lost. London's almost lost. But
If
we
London,
have
if London doesn't, if England doesn't immediately remove Starmer and get the globalists out of there, they're gonna be in real trouble.
yeah, yeah.
For a long.
And they had that big march this weekend with 100 or 200,000 people in London, and they played it off like it wasn't nothing.
Yeah.
But I saw 100 or 200,000 people on TV that were trying to wave their flag. When they did it before, they were arrested for waving their own flag in England.
Yeah.
The White Cross and their national flag. And it's unbelievable how every time Trump or any Republican tries to help the world, it's bad.
Yep.
But if it's, I mean, we didn't have any of this going on with Iraq or Afghanistan. And I said from the beginning, we got no business in Iraq at all. That was just to appease George Bush's dad, because he wasn't allowed, Congress didn't allow him to go in and finish it off. And why the hell we were in Afghanistan is beyond me, because 17 of the 19 pilots were from Saudi Arabia.
Right.
I've never figured that out. You know, it's conspiracy theories everywhere, but it's time we either win this war or get out.
I agree.
And tuck our tail between our legs and come back to the country, and then just say the hell with the world. We're not feeding you. We're not medicating you, and we're done protecting you. And we're going to pull back our 800 military installations across the country, across the world.
Yeah.
Which is more than the next 10 countries combined that are trying to protect the world.
Yep. I totally agree.
Pisses me off.
I can tell you kind of got on one there for a second.
Yeah.
You good now? You want to talk? You don't want to talk about something more fun now? You want to talk about UK sports?
I'd love to talk about UK
All right,
sports.
let's do that.
Okay, let's go.
Late breaking news. As we were going on the air, we just got this information, got sent over to us yesterday or early this morning. We found out that Kentucky and Gonzaga had ended their 3-year contract to play each other. They played one time. It was forgettable for us.
Yeah, they kind of beat the crap out of us.
Down in Nashville. And so they ended it. And then all of a sudden today, late today, we get this information that college basketball's next huge regular season event is in the works. And if it materializes as planned, it will give the sport another massive must-see attraction. The proposal is called the Diamond Cup. It's an 8-team pool play event that would debut in the 27-28 men's basketball season, sources told CBS Sports. If it comes together as designed, the Diamond Cup will be blue blood laden, and in addition to the Players Era tournament, bolster the mainstream appeal of college basketball during the opening month. The 8 schools involved.
Before you go,
Yep.
Go back to the image of the 8 schools and let people see just for a second and see who's not there.
Yeah,
because you're getting ready to name who's not there.
Yeah,
and that just popped out to me immediately.
Yeah,
on who's not there. So I just want to make sure everybody gets a chance to look at it.
Yeah, the 8 schools involved in deep discussions. None have signed on to this, but they are in late discussions at this point. Arizona, Connecticut, Gonzaga, Kansas, Kentucky, Indiana, Michigan, and North Carolina. Holy moly. 7 of those schools have been in talks with Diamond Cup stakeholders since last summer. Duke bowed out earlier this spring due to its 3-game commitment with Amazon Prime Video, which starts later this year, and which allowed for them to remove them. And essentially, it sounds like they added Indiana.
Yeah, it's all NIL money here.
So This is not going to be a one-off like the Champions Classic, where we will go beat Tyron Stokes in Kansas this year in the United Center. This is going to be pool play. So essentially, there will be two pools. You'll play three games. It sounds like you'll play 3 games in your pool, and then the 2 pool winners will go on to play each other for a championship.
It'll be as big as an NCAA Final Four with
It'll be the biggest first month attraction that you'll see. It'll probably be 2 weeks long, and it'll probably be. I can imagine that it's going to be at some of the larger arenas in the conference. So you'll have your March Madness, but you'll also have this at the beginning of the season as well.
And half of those teams will be in the top 10 every year.
Yeah, I mean,
this will be something you want to plan your weekend around. What's it is.
Honestly, as a Kentucky, Indiana, and North Carolina fan, I want to say to these other teams, thank you for allowing us to be a part of this, because Kentucky, Indiana, and North Carolina haven't been good in the last couple of years. But we still got the eyeballs in the fan base. The eyeballs in the fan base and all that money that comes in, right? So that's all that really matters. So to be able to join these other blue blood teams, as they call it, will be huge. And again, we were talking about this 3-game contract with Duke and Amazon Prime.
Yeah,
may have come back to bite them right in the butt.
Have you heard how much money Duke's getting paid for that? I haven't.
I have not.
But it's all. This is probably one. It's to fight the Amazon Prime deal with Duke.
Sure.
It's to counteract that, which you'll watch this versus you'll watch what Duke does.
Yeah.
And then,
well, it's interesting because
money that'll raise will go to NIL budgets to these schools, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because Connecticut, Gonzaga, and Michigan are the other teams that Duke is playing in that in that deal. So they're not being.
So that tells you Duke's getting probably 75% of the TV money.
Oh,
Amazon money.
Yeah, easy. Which probably makes these teams really want to be a part of this as well.
And I bet ESPN's rolling over in the grave because they love Duke so much.
Well,
I don't like Duke. You know that. Everybody knows that.
You're not allowed to like Duke.
See my hat.
Yeah,
I don't like Duke.
Yeah. Let's move over to more Kentucky basketball, because an offseason move that many people thought was dead suddenly appears to be very much alive. According to reporting from KSR's Jack Pilgrim and Jacob Polachek, 3-time NBA Sixth Man of the Year Jamal Crawford is still actively considering joining Mark Pope's staff at Kentucky, and Crawford himself reportedly confirmed the discussions are ongoing, according to On3. It's important because a lot of people inside Big Blue Nation assumed this pursuit had kind of ended with the Tyron Stokes deal when he left for Kansas, but apparently not so fast. Here's the interesting part. The issue doesn't appear to be whether Crawford wants to coach. The issue appears to be timing and family. KSR reported that Crawford is serious about getting into coaching, but he currently has multiple things pulling at him. He has television responsibilities with the NBA coverage. He coaches AAU basketball with some of the biggest names in the country. He coaches at Rainier Beach High School, and his son, JJ Crawford, is currently viewed as the #1 player in the 2029 class, as he just finished his freshman year, and is entering major developmental years. Now, we mentioned the NBA Western Conference Finals angle. There is a logical connection here. Crawford currently has NBA broadcasting responsibilities, and the BBN chatter has increasingly centered around whether an announcement, if one comes at all, may wait until these obligations are completed. We don't know if that will actually be the thing. But the bigger issue of this is that Mark Pope already brought in Mo Williams. If Kentucky were to add Crawford too, suddenly you're talking about a staff with major NBA credibility and a lot of relationships with elite players who are 16 to 18 years old right now.
And plus who they can bring in
exactly
from the NBA to talk to UK players. I mean, if we get him, gosh almighty, I mean, that will help Pope so much by having those two guys on his staff.
And on the screen right now, the reason that I put this up here is that Jamal Crawford just yesterday afternoon reposted Jack Pilgrim's post about Jamal Crawford's son, JJ.
Yeah.
And this has got people all of a sudden talking again that the Jamal Crawford thing may be happening. I will say that the Western Conference Finals, which is where his announcing responsibilities would end for the season, it
And I'm
appears.
watching. Yeah, I'm watching.
That series will probably go 7 games. So again, we may be in a 2-week waiting pattern to find out anything, just like we are. We're about a week out from finding out what's
Yeah.
going to happen.
And he's not. I've been watching specifically to see if he mentions anything, or his co-host mentioned anything about UK or Kentucky, or just say the word Kentucky.
Anything. Yeah, anything.
And I've not seen or heard anything yet. I can't even believe they're not teasing him about it on air.
Yeah. Well, he hasn't been around Chuck or Shaq.
And then, this kid, you say he's a freshman in high school right now.
Yeah.
Rajon Rondo is getting ready to be a freshman.
Yeah, Pierre Rondo will be a freshman. Yeah.
If we could I know it's not going to happen, but everybody would love to see Rajon Rondo on the UK coaching staff. Every time he comes to a game, speculation kicks up. Well, he's going to be a coach. He's going to be a coach. You'd have 2 great guards. You'd have playoff Rondo. You'd have the 6th man of the year. And Mo Williams has got, I think, 1 or 2 NBA championships.
Yeah, all 3 of them have been all-stars as well. So you're not just hiring.
Rondo's got a championship. They've all been NBA all-stars. That's right.
You're not talking about bringing in guys. They just played in the league. These are elite guys. But here's the recruiting angle everybody in Kentucky is immediately noticing. You're not just hiring Jamal Crawford, the former player. You're potentially bringing in an NBA name, a major basketball personality who is not just a guy that everybody likes. And, this
he's got a national presence.
This guy has deep grassroots recruiting connections, and he has West Coast ties, something that Kentucky has struggled with over the years, and a direct connection to one of the country's most highly regarded young basketball families because they live in his house. And so I think that's something to take into consideration. Craig, if this actually happens, if Jamal Crawford comes to Kentucky, is he just filling a staff position, or could this end up becoming one of the biggest recruiting moves Kentucky makes all offseason?
I think a big recruit move, because I would guess, I have no idea, but I would guess his TV money is more than what he would be paid as the head assistant coach at UK.
It would definitely be close. I mean, if nothing else. So,
yeah, but he wants to get in coaching. He's talked about it for years. And now that his son is following in his footsteps and being a really good player, you come to Kentucky, Duke, or Kansas if you want to, he would leave Kentucky and become a head coach, or he could be Kentucky's next head coach. He could be lining up because Pope's 50. You let him get 3 or 4 years experience in. Pope might say, I'm done with this. And so there's a lot of good future things by some of the moves that have been made in the last 3 weeks. And my personal one, I would love to see him get Rondo on the staff.
Well, I will also say that, this has been a roller coaster in the off season. I'm not going to lie. I mean, this is one of the craziest off seasons that you and I have definitely ever experienced. Even during the Billy Clyde days and things of that nature, this has been a wild time. And I know that NIL has changed things and the NBA draft has changed things, and all of that matters. But this has been a wild year for Kentucky, not just living up to the expectations that they had, but now in the off season. But let's stay in that off-season discussion, because the biggest off-season question for Mark Pope's roster still doesn't have an answer. Is Malachi Moreno actually coming back? And the answer tonight is maybe more than people thought a week ago, but it's complicated. For a while, there was growing momentum suggesting Moreno could stay in the NBA draft process. He reportedly received encouraging feedback from teams and drew significant attention in workouts and combine activities. Some analysts even describe him as having a pretty strong chance to become a first-round selection. But over the last several days, mock drafts have come out and started sending mixed signals. On one side, Yahoo's Kevin O'Connor recently projected Moreno in the first round at number 24 overall with the New York Knicks. On the other side, some of the larger mainstream boards on ESPN and otherwise still have him sitting outside those guaranteed first-round spots and more like in the 43 to 44 area.
That's what I've seen.
And in fact, Yahoo just updated their projections last night and they have him sitting at number 39, and that is the highest projection that there is. Yes, there's some guaranteed money in the second round, but it's not guaranteed in the sense
Well,
of the collective bargaining agreement that requires you to have that.
and he would probably spend time in the G League, which is just, if you ever watched any G League games, it's just one-on-one for 5 guys against 5 guys, and whoever can score the most points. There's no defense. It's like an all-star game. There's no defense. Rarely does a G League player that plays and starts in the G League makes it to the NBA. Reed Shepherd would be one that has gone down to the G League a couple times, but when he went down, he scored 38 and 43 points. And then they brought him right back, and then he's become one of the 5 young guys on the Rockets that's basically untradeable.
Yeah.
So it's got its thing, but Moreno could get more money, like we said, every day, basically. Pope better back up the truck.
Oh, whatever.
And offer the money to Moreno and to Mom Silovich. There you go. To Mom Silovich, get those 2 guys in. And then we're going to march forward. We'll quit it. We'll stop having all those naysayers. We'll stop saying, we'll stop hearing fire Coach Pope and all that stuff. And then with 2 NBA stars, all-stars on our team, that should help a ton with recruiting, because they still want to get to the NBA. And if you've got 2 guards that were all-stars in the NBA, I mean, if I'm a guard, I'm coming to Kentucky versus I'm going to some school for an extra $500,000.
Yeah, CBS analysts Matt Norlander and Gary Parrish reportedly still believe Moreno is more likely than not to return to Lexington. Parrish reportedly put the probability of a return around 75%, and there are some reasons that make sense. First, Moreno already publicly indicated that if he withdraws from the draft process, Kentucky is where he's going to return. He's already signed his non-revenue share. That's already been done. Second, in the NIL era, the math has changed. A borderline first-round player doesn't necessarily have to jump immediately. Reports suggest Moreno already has a strong NIL situation in place and could potentially increase both his development and long-term value with another season under Mark Pope. Again, next year's draft landscape, this is third. Several analysts believe Moreno could benefit from returning and entering a potentially different draft environment. This is a very deep, very good draft this year. Yeah. Not that he wouldn't be a top 10 pick next year, but he would most assuredly be a top 10 pick.
Right. And he would get his money this year, but his NBA stock would go from middle second round to a top 10 pick.
Yeah.
And when you're talking top 10 pick, you're talking 10-digit money. 9-digit money. And just like, go back to Shepherd, he's $10 million a year as a number 3 pick. If you're in the $7 to $10 million a year over a 4-year contract, you're $28 million plus your commercials and other things and your shoes, contracts you sign. So it would, I think, of course, I want him to come to Kentucky.
Sure.
But if I was an advisor of his, I would say, come back to Kentucky, put on 15 pounds of muscle, start every game, and keep doing like you're doing, and you'll be a top 10. No doubt he'd be a top 10 pick next year, maybe top 5.
Well, it gets down to that question.
You can't teach 7 feet.
Yeah, it gets down to the question of, can Malachi Moreno become a guaranteed first-round player right now? If the answer to that question is not a resounding yes, then as an advisor, even if this is a kid from Duke, and I don't like Duke, if that question comes up and the answer is not a resounding yes, you go back to school, because you're going to make more. It used to be that if you were a second rounder, maybe even a late second rounder, and the decision was whether you were going to get drafted or whether you're going to come back to whatever school you came from, you'd go to the NBA because it was money. It was real money. There's real money.
Helping your family out money.
Yeah, there's helping your family out money in college now. You're talking $2, $3, $4 million at this point, and because of that, and because I don't think that answer is a guaranteed yes right now, I think Big Blue Nation is going to see Malachi Moreno. If I had to put, I say it's higher than 75%. In fact, he tweeted last night, one of those tweets that you you sit there and question and wonder, what was that about?
What's every word and every syllable
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, and it was just 2 sets of eyeballs.
Yeah,
Now that's interesting. It also came just moments after Jamal Crawford had posted the thing about reposted the thing about
right.
his son, so, maybe he knows something as well. Obviously, these guys talk, everybody knows what's happening. Pope has been up uh, in Chicago as well during this time. I think you'll see Malachi Moreno back. That thing I think we can put to rest in the next couple days. I think we'll hear
Yeah,
that. When we do, we'll
but it could go all the way to June 27 too.
yeah, absolutely could. I
It could
don't think
go
he will,
for
but
him and Mom Silovich. It could both go that far, but they could if they come back to Kentucky. These big businesses that sign these players to these NIL deals, start signing them up now,
yeah,
encouraging guys to come back to Kentucky.
yeah. Well, let's talk about Momcilovic. Let's stay with Kentucky basketball and this big story, obviously, because there may be another very important development involving one of the biggest names still floating around college basketball world, and that is Milan Momcilovic. The latest chatter from Louisville Insider. Now, listen to me. This is from Louisville Insider Jody Dimling.
Yeah,
Is that Louisville is not expecting to land Momcilovic, which is significant, and it's a significant shift because the Cardinals had repeatedly been mentioned in the last week among
and
the schools in the mix. Leading.
they were the leading candidate. Yeah,
In fact, if you had read Twitter X over the last week, it was just Cardinals fans dunking on UK fans
right.
that they were going to land this guy. It makes things. The reported group that was in the mix was obviously Kentucky and Louisville, St. John's, UCLA, Iowa State return was possible, but
Michigan a little bit.
Michigan a little bit. But the money wasn't going to. A lot of people have spent a lot of their money, but for some unknown reason, Louisville has just a bottomless pit of money. It's like Scrooge McDuck's house has opened up or something, and they're just rolling in gold coins. But recent reporting suggests Louisville's position may be weakening considerably, which is interesting because this story that came out just 2 hours ago off MSN, off their site, following from Wildcat Blue Nation, is that he was predicted to come back to college, and it was either going to be Kentucky or Louisville.
Right.
Now, if Kentucky or Louisville are the top two choices, and Louisville's insider, Jody Dimling, is saying he's not coming to the University of Louisville, back that truck up, Craig.
It's like a big blue Christmas coming.
Beep,
Yeah,
beep, beep.
it's a big blue Christmas coming,
Get
and
that Brinks truck ready, Mark.
right.
Get that check out because
And,
write whatever it is that this kid wants.
and Momcilovic is projected more likely to come back to college than
He's below. He's below
than
Moreno.
Moreno.
Yeah.
It's more of a chance of him. If we get one great, I mean, it's really great, excitingly great.
Yeah. Yeah.
If we get both, watch out, people.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be
Watch
very.
all the people jump on the big blue
Oh, yeah.
bandwagon again.
Told you all a week ago to get back on the bandwagon because there may not be room when you want to get back on here, but
I will make
you're
room.
we will. But you'll see him jump. Goodness gracious!
But at least we'll stop seeing all the big
Oh
blue
my gosh!
linemen.
According to Momcilovic himself, Kentucky's style of play has stood out to him as a potential fit. Reports indicate he likes the spacing and offensive concepts Mark Pope runs. Even though Pope reportedly had not directly spoken with him at one stage of the process, Kentucky remained involved through representatives and continued communication. And here's where the NBA angle actually enters. Momcilovic's draft position appears to be one of the major reasons all of this remains fluid. Most projections continue placing him in high second-round territory, not in guaranteed first-round range. CBS Sports analyst Isaac Trotter recently projected that Momcilovic would ultimately withdraw from the draft process, though he did not make a school prediction. That creates a very similar conversation to the one that we just talked about with Malachi Moreno, because in today's world, the question is no longer, can I get drafted? The question has become, am I improving my long-term value by leaving now? If Momcilovic is sitting in the high second-round range, there are real questions. Can another year raise him into first-round territory? Can NIL rival or exceed immediate NBA money? Yes, at Kentucky, it absolutely will. Can a season in Mark Pope's system increase his offensive profile? And from Kentucky's standpoint, this becomes fascinating. Imagine this scenario, Craig. Malachi Moreno returns. Milan Momcilovic withdraws and lands in Kentucky, and Jamal Crawford joins the staff in the next week. And suddenly, this offseason conversation changes from Kentucky might be good to Kentucky might be one of the most dangerous teams in college.
Might win the championship, have a good shot at it, but I mean, we would be so tall. But remember, the only school Mom Silovich has mentioned is Kentucky. All the NBA and sports pundits have been saying Kentucky, Louisville, Kansas, Michigan, St. John's. He had never really mentioned the university, but in an interview last week, he said the word Kentucky. So hopefully that means that's at the top of his head, and he's ready to pull the trigger and come to Kentucky.
Yeah, and I will say that Rick Pitino is always out there. That scares you because Rick Pitino.
Love Rick Pitino, yeah.
And you worry about Louisville, opening up Scrooge McDuck's, bank account and paying for this. And then you worry about guys like Calipari. You worry about a random school like Connecticut or Georgetown. These teams don't have the NIL money left. Not for a guy like not for a guy who is a darn near 50% 3-point shooter.
Yeah,
now,
we've got the Tyrann Stokes money that we were going to spend, that $8 million.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kentucky offseason may not be slowing down anytime soon. Let's get into just real quick before we jump off here. Mark Pope and Kentucky are not done. Maybe not with this class, but also definitely not with the classes coming up. Let's start with a guy named Savo Drejic. You're going to love trying to pronounce it.
Is that the Russian guy?
Well, no, this kid is a Serbian, 6'4" Serbian guard who previously spent a season at Georgia before returning overseas and playing with Mega Superbet. I think we should start naming our NBA teams. Mega Superbet.
Okay.
Kentucky was connected to him before, but now there appears to be actual movement again. According to Jacob Polacek at KSR, Drejic, I know I'm butchering that name, by the way, and you all can jump on me later.
DP.
Yeah. Drejic himself confirmed, my agent is in contact with Kentucky. That's kind of big. It's important because this isn't random message board smoke. This came directly from the player. So who is this guy? Look, when he was in the United States the first time and at Georgia, his numbers weren't eye-popping at all. 3 points a game, 1.1 rebounds. Only played
were Anthony Davis's.
Yeah, 6.8 minutes per game. But then something changed after returning overseas and playing for Mega Superbet. His production exploded. He's averaging 15.5 points a game, roughly 4 assists a game, and nearly 5 rebounds a game. And now here's why Kentucky would make sense. Mark Pope still appears to be looking for another ball handler, another shot creator, and another experience piece in the backcourt. And Drejic checks a lot of those boxes. He also has SEC experience already, meaning he wouldn't be walking into a completely foreign environment, no pun intended. But my read tonight is Kentucky interest appears real. Whether Kentucky is leading is a different conversation entirely. Right now, this feels more like Kentucky is keeping a door open for another potential guard in the backcourt, and they're waiting kind of to see what happens with Moreno, Momcilovic, and remaining roster spots.
Well, and people wonder why UK and other schools are going for all these European players. You probably know this, but maybe many don't. The last 8 NBA MVPs are not born in the United States. Think about that. The best players in the league, the top 5 players in the league, are all foreigners.
Yeah.
So, I had a conversation with a guy at Da Vinci's Pizza the other day, and he said that AAU has ruined American-born players because it's so offense-driven. Thank you, Kyle.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Da Vinci's Pizza.
Because it's so offense-driven and not defense. And then the parents, you see all over YouTube, parents going crazy when a ref makes a call and they attack the ref in the field. Over in Europe, they teach their 7-footers to shoot 3-pointers.
Spread the floor.
Hitting a 10-footer is nothing.
Yeah.
And they work on their free throws, which is one of my most important things over in Europe. And I think SGA is probably shooting at a 95% clip in the playoffs right now.
Well, it helps when you shoot 35 of them a game too.
Well, yeah, I actually checked that because I thought he averages 9 free throws a game. But still. Kobe Bryant, for the older folks, Kobe Bryant probably made an extra 10 or 15 million a year because he was such a good free throw shooter.
Absolutely.
He could draw fouls like SGA, except when Kobe played, they were real fouls. Now, if you breathe on these NBA players, they call a foul.
Now go back and do Jordan. If you really
Oh,
want to
yeah.
do
Well,
guys in Houston.
all the NBA greats says Michael Jordan in this era would average 60 points a game. Average.
Yeah.
And
'Cause
he'd
shoot 30 free throws.
Yeah, he would shoot 20 or 30 free throws a game.
Yeah.
And you remember Bill Laimbeer and those guys just
Pummeling
and Kareem, they destroyed you.
Kurt Rambis.
Yeah, they destroyed you. They were
Dennis
there to
Rodman.
destroy. You didn't drive down the lane like you do today in the NBA.
Robert Parrish and those guys. I mean,
Yeah,
even your guards, you had guys running off the bench, the guards.
They said Barkley, Barkley's 6'4", but he played like he was 6'8".
Yeah.
They said Barkley averaged 40 or 45 points a game. Karl Malone had averaged 40 or 45 points a game.
Because they could also shoot free throws. And if you fouled them in this era and they shot 15 free throws a game, you're only talking about having to make 6 or 7.
And Shaq would probably average 50 or 60 a game.
Goals. Yeah. Well, I don't know. He couldn't.
No, he would just have to stand underneath because they don't call 3 seconds no more.
Yeah.
And they don't play defense underneath. And if you get near a big guy, the whistle's blown whether they touch him or not.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The James Harden era has ruined the NBA. All the flopping, and then of course LeBron James is the king flopper. It's hurt it a lot, but it's not as fun to watch as it used to be.
But the teams that are playing right now, the New York Knicks, the Oklahoma City, regardless of whether you don't like the foul,
5 or 6, 7 years, there's your champions.
These are
in Houston.
These are finesse teams, that are really good athletes, and so that you look at Jokic and Denver. This is a point forward that can point center who can pass all the.
Average another triple double.
Yeah,
and he's going to end up in the Lakerland. He's going to end up in Los Angeles.
Boy, that'd be fun. I'll tell you that much.
He's going to be there, and then San Antonio with Wemby and OKC.
That's a freak. That guy's a
you're going to have the NBA world is going to be Houston, San Antonio, and Oklahoma City. All you could drop a towel on them, and that's where for the next 5 to 7, 8 years. That's where all the NBA winners are going to be. Is right out of that little circle.
I'll challenge you and say the Lakers will be decent. They have Laker money. They can throw money at guys.
Can't get nobody to play there because of their tax situation.
Well, that's true. We can talk
of your contract.
Yeah, we could talk about that too. Well, same with New York. I mean, why would you play in New York when you can play in Miami?
That's what players are saying.
We're starting to figure it out. I'll play in Orlando, and not have any taxes.
Remember, we talked about Wandale Robinson. He got an 11% raise.
Yeah.
Just by leaving before his contract.
$9 million that he won't pay in taxes.
That he won't have to pay New York state taxes.
Just because
that's got to be in these guys' minds.
Well, of course, and some of these guys are like, yeah, I want to chase a ring. I want to do those things. There are other players who are like, I want to be good, but I don't want to give all my money away either.
Right. I mean, LeBron loses.
Get good.
Yeah, LeBron loses out of that $50 million or probably $65 million a year contract. 60% of that money is gone for every game that he plays in California.
Yeah.
And it's Golden State and the Clippers and the Lakers. So that's a lot of games, probably a third of the season that they play that he loses 60% of his money.
Well, he plays half the games in Los Angeles, and then
he goes to the Knicks.
Yeah.
They play them once a year. There's another big chunk of money out. So the money is coming into play, and that's why I think these better players are either holding out, and you won't see the San Antonio players leave.
No.
Because even though they might get an extra $10 million, hell, they'll end up paying in taxes over the contract.
You're going to end up, and this is the craziest thing, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now. The Dodgers are great because they're essentially there is no salary cap in baseball, right?
Yeah, they bought a winning team.
They overpay players, and they essentially say you're not going to make that money anywhere else. We'll pay you
$1 billion in 3 players.
Yeah, and then you turn around, but in other areas, Florida teams, your Texas teams, your Tennessee teams are all going to start being very good and very competitive because your smart athletes and your good athletes are going to realize I can make significantly more money by just having a reasonable contract because I'm not
Yeah.
paying at all.
And is Nashville, are they rumored to get the next NBA team?
They were in the mix.
I
I
mean,
see.
just recently, just recently.
No, I think Seattle and Las Vegas are going to end up with those two.
Maybe. Mark Joslin said, how about go after those stealing our tax money in Minnesota and Ohio, for example? We did talk about that, Mark, earlier in our podcast,
Yep.
and we've talked about it a lot
Yeah, I will. I
on our podcast.
I do understand your sentiment. Don't care about Cuba. Totally understand that. A lot of us kind of feel like that, but at the same time, it's a huge story, and it will open up so much more if the only communist nation in the Western Hemisphere is that regime has ended.
But we talked about Minnesota. We talked about California. We've talked about Ohio is just now getting investigated. We've touched on those just about every podcast because stuff is breaking by the hour for the corruption on these various states that are just the government officials just let it sit back and letting it happen. They got to know it. If they audit their auditors, their state auditors have to know what's going on.
Yeah, and the question is, are they doing anything? Well, luckily, here in Kentucky, we have Allison Ball, who is.
I even remember some of our commissioners, our locally city commissioners, saying, "Hey, we're giving all these money to these charities. How come we never see how they spend the money?"
We're not seeing an audit.
Yeah, and I think Patricia, didn't she ask for one every year?
Yeah.
I need to know where this money, how they're spending it, and I'm absolutely not saying that's going on in Frankfurt, but those questions should have been asked in Minnesota and Los Angeles, Cleveland, and Columbus.
Yeah, I agree. Also, before we wrap up tonight, last night we had a great show. It was more than 3.5 hours long on our live broadcast related to the election results. We had Craig. We had over 25,000 viewers on that show. Just a phenomenal number. Thank you guys for joining us. We greatly appreciate it. Join us in the future. We're going to have all sorts of fun events like that. In addition to that, you guys who are joining us every single day, we really appreciate it. Make sure you like and subscribe. We gained another 100 subscribers last night, as well as just 600 comments or something crazy throughout the night.
We'll dive in. I mean, I hope we will tomorrow dive into the numbers.
Yep.
Because that's what we do on this show is we
dive into the politics numbers
the politics numbers. We dive into UK all day too, but
yep.
All you ever read is headlines. All you ever see is headlines. And there are people out there that are concerned or want to know how the votes went. And was it really boomers that elected Thomas Massie? And there's not just because there's more boomers than there are young people. I don't know if those numbers are true because didn't have a chance to look into them, but we can do some dive into numbers things pretty soon too.
Yeah, we'll do that. So that'll do it for us tonight. We covered a lot of ground tonight, 4 major national headlines and political fallout to international developments overseas. And, of course, a deep dive, as always, into Kentucky basketball, where the offseason rumor mill is moving at full speed as it always does. As always, we appreciate all of you joining us tonight, spending part of your evening with us and being part of the conversation. Drop your thoughts in the comments about any of the things that we talked about tonight.
Like what Mark Joslin did.
Just like Mark Joslin did. If you want to talk about Kentucky sports, is Moreno coming back? Does Kentucky land Momcilovic? And which recruiting target are you watching the closest? If you enjoyed tonight's show, make sure you like, subscribe, and share the broadcast. Always. Until next time, stay informed, stay sharp, stay above the noise. Good night, everybody. Have a great evening.